sure we got this over here. All right. Share to my page as well. Action coach Akua Soadwa. Not yet. Not yet. I'll tell you when. All right. And we are officially live. Akua.
Yes.
What's going on?
Good morning. I'm blessed, highly favored, and heart is beating, so I'm alive.
No doubt. No doubt. So one of the things that, and I just want to thank you, first of all, for coming through. All right. I'm going to do more of that when we go live on the radio, but I am really, really grateful and to the universe, really, because I say that because, like I said, you are a very focused individual. You know what I'm saying? You keep your calendar set. You got your system. And so to be able to have you already available 2 days later, let me know, okay, yeah, this is meant to be. So I thank you for coming through. Let's start right now, man, with two things that you have drilled in a very loving way. You know what I mean? What's up? In a very loving way, you've drilled this since I met you, right? Integrity and intention, So let me know, what is the intention you have for this conversation?
Ooh, that's a juice. We all need to take some collective breaths so I can invite my ancestors and guides and God and everyone in, because I do think intention, I think conversation is prayer, and we have to be very thoughtful about the conversations we enter into. If you actually considered it as prayer, how would you talk? How would you kick off the conversation? So I just need a moment to breathe so I can hear what the intention is for us today. We have a real opportunity to shift the vibration of what has been happening in this country and beyond. A real opportunity to shift the vibration. A lot of us are dealing with some very life-altering things, decisions. There's a lot that's going on, coupled with the way that this country is, quote unquote, being run. And there's a lot going on. And I believe that the intention of our space today is to remind people of their own divine power to shift anything, because everything is vibration. And so my prayer is that anyone who's listening, anyone that's watching, that you feel something differently, you hear something differently. All it takes is one conversation, one word, one sentence, one statement that can shift everything for you, can shift the way that you perceive a particular thing, even a challenge that you're encountering right now. I pray that in this moment, in this conversation, whether it's on Facebook Live or from the radio, that you take on your life newly because of this conversation. Your life is significantly altered because of this conversation and your willingness to be a part of it. And we're just simply planting one seed that's going to change the trajectory of your life forever. That is my intention for our time today. And I invite in all of the spirit guides, God, ancestors, whatever you believe in, whatever is your anchor, I invite that into the space so that it allows each of us to listen newly, wholly, and with an open and loving heart and mind. So that's my intention.
Man, okay. Okay. You set that. You set the whole tone for that, and I appreciate that. Now I know we're gonna go live on the radio, so they're gonna join in the conversation that we're currently having, right? And there is some juicy stuff that we're gonna get into that we won't get into just yet. There was some things though that we were talking about, and I think one of the things that people overlook when it comes to manifesting, when it comes to our vision, when it comes to this type of work, self-work, is we end up saying, okay, I'm working on self. So because I'm working on self, I don't really have time. And it doesn't have anything to do with the work that's in the community and what we have to do as a people. Like, I need to focus on me. Yeah. That's usually the mindset. What do you think about the connection between working on ourselves, working in conjunction with what you do in the community?
Yeah, I think that's a really great question. I struggled with for a long time because the conversation initially was serve, 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 everybody else, everybody else, everybody else, everybody else, and especially as Black people. You know, it's like your work is to give to your community, give to your family, help out, help out, help out, and there was always a disregard for your own self-care. And I do think that there's an essential balance, because how do you learn how to take care of community if you haven't learned how to take care of yourself? You know, and so there is a very direct correlation, and doing it at the same time is important. So it's like when you're in your own space, you should be taking care of yourself. That is your own internal prayer process, etc. Ask those deeper questions, right? And the way that you know whether you got that lesson in that individual time is in community, right? Because it's in community with at least one other person or more, where you start to see, okay, am I practicing the download that I got? Am I practicing it responsibly? Yeah. And if you're not, the only way you're gonna know is not when you're in isolation by yourself, but when you actually bring yourself into intimacy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So you started all of this serving, building you. Yeah. We won't go too much into your story, but you have a hell of a story, right? And then you became this master life coach. Like, I've been in the room where I've seen you, somebody who volunteered. That's why when they say anybody want to volunteer for Akua to coach, people be like, I'd be like, no, because everybody knows in that room, you sit up there with Akua, give her 5 minutes with you. We're gonna go in. You gonna go in. Yeah. The deepest part of you is gonna come out, and you're gonna be exposed. But it required you to be so present. You know what I'm saying? I want to just give everybody a little bit of context about what you do now, what you've mastered, and I think you're still in the process, as always, of mastering. What it is that you do on an international level and all of that, so people can kind of get that context.
Yeah, so I'm an action coach. I'm an action coach that is doing soul surgery. And so I take my work very seriously. I take it as though I'm a surgeon because I have to handle your soul with care. And I want to do it in a way that keeps us in action. I used to be a sprinter, so I'm very much like, let's get things done. How can we get to the best result as soon as possible, quickly? So I'm an action coach. Some of the things that I do, I offer one-on-one coaching, 3-month program, 6-month program, retreats where I have with the Transformation Trifecta is a group of myself and 2 friends, and we do what's called the One Love Intensive. We've done it in Jamaica 3 times. We'll be doing it again in October. I have an experience, and that's for 5 days, 6 days, 5 nights. And I also have an event. We have an event called the Purge, and that's going to be in the Catskills in New York, March 29th through the 31st. And so that's also an experience. All of the experiences that I offer are an opportunity for you to slow down, quiet your mind, and get in action on the things that matter most to you, but specifically on the messages that are trying to be communicated to you. Because I think a lot of us are taking a lot of action, but it's not the action that your spirit and your soul is calling you to take. It's the action that you think you're supposed to be taking because you should ... And I have you still quiet the noise so that you can actually hear the actions that you're being called to take. And so that's what I do with Let's Pursue You. I also have a nonprofit going into the 12th year this February. Shout out to the Genius Me Empowerment Project, which is all about supporting people of African descent, and specifically supporting us with tapping into our gifts and learning how to leverage that in any space. And so we do an annual youth summit for high school girls every year. We'll be doing it again this March. It's every March. It's going to be in Brooklyn. We're looking for a venue, so if any of y'all know some venues, hook a sister up. And that's for high school girls across the New York State, tri-state area. And I'm also the VP of Dream Directing for the Future Project. where we support high school students, and that's how Jay and I know each other, support high school students with tapping into their potential and their purpose and their power. And so I have the honor of being that, and I used to be a dream director at New Haven Academy. Shout out to New Haven.
No doubt.
You know, so that's what I do. I'm about youth. I'm about adults. I'm about growth. I'm about freedom. I'm an abolitionist at heart. And
explain what do you mean by that, abolitionist at
I'm
heart?
here to get us free. You know what I'm saying? I'm
No
here to get us free, and I take that very seriously. I take that the way Sojourner Truth would take it. I take it the way Harriet Tubman would take it. I take it the way Yaya Santua from Ghana would take it. Nanny of the Maroons would take it. Like, I take it as serious as those women took it. I take it. And I'm not here to be liked, and I had to let go of that a long time ago. I'm not here to be liked. I'm here to be loved, and I'm here to set you free, and whatever it takes, myself included.
Right.
So that's what I'm up to.
You're not the Iyanla Van
Zant. Iyanla Van Zant. Yeah.
Iyanla Van Zant. She lit me, yo. I told you.
You did say that.
Lit it on her show. She's good though. Don't get me wrong. I get some really good work.
Yeah, I learned a lot from her.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's good. So we're gonna go live on the radio in a few minutes, and we're gonna get Zulema and Rem on the live feed. You know, in a couple minutes.
Okay.
So one of the things that you were talking about is the quiet the noise.
Yeah.
And like what other people say, you know, you should be doing with your action, you know, and stuff like that. And then what ends up happening is the wrong thing is influencing you to do the wrong action.
Yes.
And now you know, how do we come back from that? How do we come back from a time where, like, or how do we even check in and make sure we know that the steps that we're doing are the steps that are necessary for our lives? Because sometimes we get in our own way too. We say, well, that's just not me. I just don't do that.
Yeah.
You do that. I don't do that.
Yeah.
But that might be the thing that you need to do.
Yeah.
So how do we assess that?
Woo. Okay, so ask that in another way for me.
Okay. Like, you want me to try?
I want you to try another way, because I think I got it, but I just want to make sure.
So
my mind
how do
is taking me to all sorts of places right now.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How do we? How are we sure? How do we become very sure that the action steps that we create for ourselves are actually in line with what our purpose is? You know, and what the universe provided for us.
So first, I would highly recommend people listen to, it's a 9-minute video by Michael Beckwith. It's called Questions to Ask the Universe. I listened to that every day, for the entire year, about a year and a half ago, every day. And I listened to it because there was something in his message that resonated with me. And y'all know when something resonates with you. Y'all know when something resonates with you. You also know when something does not resonate with you. What we tend to do is feed the thing that does not resonate with us, the thing that we are questioning. Well, I mean, I thought I felt like I was feeling him. I feel like I was. Well, boo, if you questioning it, that's a no. And you can come back to it. It's not like that's definitely the answer. If it is something you resonate with, it'll come back. And it'll come back in a way that assures you of that knowing, right? But the moment you're questioning a thing, that's the moment to let it go and trust. If it's supposed to come back, it will. And you can say, a mantra that I use is, I trust you, God, and I trust the process. I'm gonna let this go. If it's supposed to come back, it will. And then let it go. But listening is really the answer to all of that. Listening.
And what was the video?
It's called Questions to Ask the Universe by Michael Beckwith. I highly recommend it.
So what do you mean by let it go? Now, do you mean by just totally discard it, or do you mean be patient with it and don't try to, you know what I mean? Because that kind of, I don't know. Sometimes I would think that maybe, you know, maybe we wouldn't have to just let it go, but just be patient. Because I think patience is the key, really, to everything. So you could watch yourself grow, you could watch other things grow, you could learn and understand, you know, a lot of things when you're just patient. We tend to just rush into things, you know. So when you say let it go, you mean like totally discard it?
Yeah, when I say let it go, I mean totally let it go.
Okay.
I mean being able to first acknowledge it, right? Because I think sometimes we don't acknowledge things. Like we just kind of pretend that we're okay, you know, versus being like, no, like this is how I feel. Like, so allow yourself to get it all out. Have that moment. Like, I'm going to get it all out right now. This is what I want. This is why I'm frustrated, or whatever it is. This is why I think this is what it is. And then because you feel, and everyone has a different feeling. Sometimes I call it anxiety. Sometimes I call it confusion. Sometimes I call it, you know, like there's a lot of different ways that we can describe it, but it doesn't feel like peace. That's my point.
Yes.
It doesn't feel like peace. And each of us know what peace feels like for ourselves.
Absolutely.
Okay, so when it doesn't feel like peace, that's when you know, ultimately, at the end of this conversation, I have to commit to letting this go. Like, you have to make that decision and choose, because there is no peace here. I'm not going to feed the pain for the sake of feeding the pain. Right? Like, there's a responsible way to address the pain. Right. I believe that we don't need to dwell in the pain. Address it. Don't dwell in it. Dwelling in it is when you're like overthinking it, questioning it. It's always coming up. It's like, that's your cue to pull the freak back. That is your cue. You know, it's literally your cue. Now, if you're choosing not to listen, you won't catch it as a cue. And you just don't keep running in that and having that conversation and da-da-da-da-da.
Right.
But it is a cue. And the question is, are you willing to listen to what your spirit is trying to tell you? And your spirit is trying to protect you. And you are resisting the protection that your spirit is trying to offer you. And so the question I would have for you or anyone is, why won't you let your spirit protect you? And why do you think you know it better than your spirit does?
She's gonna have me over here shouting.
Let's sing.
Because if we don't talk about it, let's talk about it.
Say amen.
All right, we got 40 seconds.
Sorry.
Go ahead. Let's put the headphones
Move,
on.
Ram. I need direct line to her. You messing up this
excuse
direct.
me.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll let you know when mics are gonna go hot. Everybody on the live, thank you for joining in, for tuning in, and we're gonna go live for the live radio show in a few seconds. Okay. Oh, not yet. Yeah. Hold up. You hear it?
Oh, nope. It was on. Now
94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city. This is Moving Target Radio. I am your host, Jay Kemp. Good morning, New Haven. And of course, with me is my brother, Remedy Sharif. What's up, bro?
Blessings, yes, sir.
Peace, peace. And of course, we got Zulima.
Of course. Good morning.
From her, helping each other recover. And first, to set this off, I gotta give a birthday shout out to Wisdom.
Wiz.
My goddaughter, your daughter, Rem.
Yes, sir.
Which was a beautiful evening last night.
Yeah, we had a blast.
Yeah.
16 style.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, Lord.
It's too much. I need to create an app where we could just freeze children in time.
We got
They
you,
don't
man.
grow.
They growing up so fast,
Yeah, please,
man.
could you?
It's
Yeah, so shout out to her, man. You know, it was beautiful. It was a beautiful evening. It was beautiful. It was a beautiful evening just to see family.
Yes.
You know, and I made it a point this year to make sure I step out more and see family and connect with people.
Nice.
You know, so Rem, I want to know if you know this quote. Last episode, I did a quote, and Zulima didn't know who I was talking about. All right.
Why you not throwing me under the bus?
I'm just saying.
I know it either. I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's rhetorical.
If you do know it, don't answer it.
Discipline makes things easier. Organize your life.
Was that Master Bruce Lee?
No. Even though that's something you would go by.
That was a good answer. Good answer.
Yeah.
That is the classic legendary album Let's Get Free by Dead Prez. Let's Get Free by Dead Prez. And as a 20-year-old young man, these words were on repeat. I was homeless, living at the studio downtown New Haven where my boys let me crash, and I knew that I needed better. And Dead Prez also went on to say in the song, practice makes perfect, all things in moderation, plan your work, work your plan. This was a major lesson to me, and much of the reason why I didn't go down the same path as many of my peers. Since then, I've been obsessed with what I call life optimization, creating a vision, making my space reflect my vision, journaling my vision, praying about my vision, and of course, hanging around people who supported my vision. I know where I wanted to be, and the big steps I needed to make to get there. But what I began to realize is the small little micro steps to take those big steps to create the big vision is where I was falling short. Not just those big habits I need to break, but the small habits I need to break, the small habits I need to develop. Bottom line is, the many reasons why my vision wasn't manifesting or my New Year's resolution for New Year, New Me ended up being the same old G or J. So how I did that. It was because I got in my own way. I didn't see a need to get up so early because I was convinced that's not me. I don't do that. I just don't do that. Until finally I learned that I had to lean in the discomfort and get up early. And finally started to feel and see the benefits while so many successful people spoke about getting up early is really great. Before you know it, while the big vision was there, it just wasn't the priority. The priority started with me. The whole me. Because if I wasn't whole, then I wasn't ready. This doesn't just pertain to me, but all of us. We all step into the new year with a vision, whether it's personal or you're a grassroots organization or a family. But what keeps so many of us really manifesting that vision? Why do we eventually fall short and drop the ball in April and pick it back up in November and we say, okay, now I'm gonna do it. This is the year. Which is why so many brothers have mixtape volume 45 and they're like, this is the one. Something happened, right? So to really unpack this and talk about this, man, I had to bring on a guest that just the universe said, yeah, she's the one that needs to come on. International action coach, Akua Soadwa. Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
So we've already begun this show on the live feed, and if you want to join us on 94.3 WYBC.com, or you could also join us on the Moving Target podcast page. We already started this conversation, and we were talking about the intention, right? And you set the whole intention in this place. How important is our intention before we even break out the vision boards, before we even say new year, new me, I'm not playing no more? How important is intention, and do you think we focus enough on that?
Go right there, Jay. Let's just go right there. Wow. So the intention is everything. And if you're not conscious about the intention you're setting, there's still an intention that's being set, you know. And my thing is, I'd rather be the one narrating that intention versus giving it over to people that don't have my best interests at heart. Not because they're intentionally not having my best interests at heart, but I'm actually the only one that has access to my full vision. I'm the only one. And I know they try to teach us otherwise, that someone else has access to my vision and I need to go to this particular person or this particular academic route or whatever. But the reality is I have access to it. And my intention for me is always about elevating how I can gain more access to what I already have within me, right? Like fundamentally, that is what my intention is. But before you start putting your ideas down, if you're planning without clear guidance, like literally your intention is clear guidance, you know, and it's really has nothing to do with goals. Like your intention is not like, my intention is to make sure that I make $1 million. That's not an intention. That's actually very much associated with the need to serve your ego, you know, because when we start replacing energy with money, you know, like where we're like, it's more important for me to have access to money than it is to having access to my energy, which is the thing that creates more and more abundance. Money is not what creates abundance. You tapping into your energy source is what creates abundance, right? And so like, I think intention, I'm going on a tangent here. Intention,
Nope, that's okay.
Intention is critical because it is you taking a stand and demanding the way that your life is going to go. That is what your intention is. And then you're able to take it from there, which we can talk about in a second, but I also think like we don't necessarily set the most appropriate goals either. And we're too attached to it, you know, but like if your intention is set, then whatever unfolds inside of that intention, that's what you want to pay attention to.
Yeah, I always said, and I actually wanted to write a book, and I will one day on this. But it would be called living like a billionaire on a budget. You know, and it's like doesn't make sense, right? Because it's like how you gonna be on a budget but you a billionaire? But really, it came down to what are the feelings that billionaires have when they have a whole bunch of money, you know, or what are we trying to achieve when we say we want a whole bunch of money? We want peace, we want stability, we want to be able to feel free, we don't want stress, right? Can we not obtain that without the money? So it kind of like falls in line with what you're saying when it comes to intention. You know, it's like I need to achieve or make my life in such a way where I can feel those things without the money.
That's right.
And it's really difficult because this world is, you know, you would think it's ran on money.
Right.
And the logical thing that you'll hear from everybody is, man, I'm trying to get this bread.
Yeah.
I'm trying to secure the bag.
And I'm like, if you got the bag or not. You know what I mean? Like if your mind is jacked up, when you get that bag, you ain't going to invest. You're not going to put it in the right places anyway, or the places that, because your mind is still jacked up.
Right.
So you got money, yeah.
Right. We're trapped in this materialistic place.
Yes.
How much does our subconscious play into? Because that's something I try to be very aware of, the consciousness and the subconscious when I'm making a decision. And I found myself a lot of times making decisions or operating about something or for something that I took in subconsciously.
Yeah.
You know, so
what do you mean? Like give me an example. Or
do something that I don't like, right? And I didn't even consciously pay attention to it, but I know, you know, it agitated me. So going through the daily movements and daily life, my conscious, yo, you didn't like that. Did you hear what she said? Or did you hear what he said? You know, you didn't like that, but it bothered me. So now later on, maybe when I'm dealing with that person or dealing, you know, with something else, that aggression about that thing comes out, even if I didn't consciously recognize that person said, you know what? So when we make our intentions now to do things because we're planning out our lives, you know what I mean? Yeah. We're dealing with a lot of things that attack us subconsciously. You know what I mean? So how important is that we're paying attention to, even though, you know, those things that could come at us like that?
That's really great, because for me, when I think about intentions, it is about my internal growth. Right? Like intentions, as I was saying, it's not about the goal of making $1 million or whatever it is. It's really like, how can I grow? Right? So like you pointed to that someone might have frustrated you or pissed you off or whatever. it's like, okay, and you didn't address it.
Right.
So the intention that I would say isn't important for you, or might have that same type of response, is my intention is to powerfully be able to deal with or sit with when people frustrate me, and to address it sooner rather than later. That could be an intention, right? And then the practice of it is different. The practice of it is, okay, when I'm in a moment with someone, the moment they start to frustrate me, I'm going to immediately check in with myself as it's happening. I'm not going to say anything to them, because if I do, it's energetically going to come off as judgmental or like aggression. So I'm not actually, because I'm pissed off, it's not appropriate for me to engage. Like, that's a sign to disengage from addressing it with that person, but to address it with yourself.
Very good.
And so you address it with yourself in that moment. You say, what is it really? Because that just pissed me off. But what is it really? And, you know, spirit, God, whatever, even, you know, like, show me, allow me to still listen. Because this is the thing. When you have the courage to still lean in, even in those moments when you're frustrated as all get out, and you still have the courage to say, but pull me in more, God. Let me hear something that I may not have heard, because I know a reason, and they're supposed to stretch me. And I'm so committed to being stretched. I'm so committed to like overcoming my disempowering beliefs and like fear and all that. I'm so committed to my freedom and the freedom of my family and the freedom of my community that I'm willing to lean into this right now. For my daughter, who's 16, I'm willing to lean into this so that for generations to come, she ain't got to experience not confronting and engaging with the truth that she needs to engage in. I'm going to sit in it for her. I'm going to sit in it for me. I'm going to sit in it for my community.
That almost makes the experience better.
Yes.
It makes it, you know, it makes it more.
Yes.
It makes it, you know, it makes it more exciting.
Yes.
Like, oh, I know what this is. It's not something that starts to bring anxiety. Like, I can't believe it. Just get out of my way. It's almost like, oh, okay, you here? Okay, let's
invite it in.
Let's figure this out.
Yeah.
You know, within myself.
Yes.
Right.
You know,
Right.
Zulima, I know.
Page from Roger McLean. Shout out to Roger. It says, how do you balance between needing to have money to secure necessities of life, to have the proper energy to put towards your intentions and goals?
Well, first, I think it's important to... I want you to repeat that one more time for me.
It says, how do you balance between needing to have money to secure necessities of life? I think he's asking, and to have the proper energy to put towards your intentions and goals. So I think he's asking the balance between needing money and its necessities and your proper energy putting towards your intentions and goals. How do you balance between the two?
I understand that conflict because you know God, you know the source, the true source, right? Whatever it is you believe in. But at the same time, once again, and I think this can go into distractions, you know, because we go into this, we're still in a society that still puts material as the source.
The apex.
Yeah.
You know, how do you, and it's very difficult to stay positive, stay peaceful, say, you know, no, I don't have that much money, but I'm peaceful. But meanwhile, you know, you don't want to go on Facebook or social media. You could get that social media envy, right?
That's right.
And then at the same time, you also got other people who really don't even consider you successful unless you got money.
Unless you have money, and that's
you know. So that how do you balance that? If I'm not mistaken, Roger, I think that's what you're asking.
So I'm a fan of Michael Beckwith, and he has a book called Spiritual Liberation. And I listened to the audiobook on repeat. Like, it's just powerful. So all of you that are audio listeners, go ahead and get that audiobook. There you go. So Spiritual Liberation. And one of the things that he said is, and I'm gonna say it slowly so that you can take it in whatever way you need to take it in. Transcending the personality's resistance to challenges is spiritually liberating. Transcending the personality's resistance to challenges is spiritually liberating. When you can transcend your personality's desire to resist what life brings you, such as financial challenges, legal challenges, familial challenges, whatever, when you can stop resisting what is, that is spiritual liberation. Now, to carry on, he says, when you contemplate the challenges in your life, like money, like Roger's pointing to, ask yourself, what gift within me is seeking to emerge? What gift within me is seeking to emerge? Then Place your attention on the emerging gift rather than the challenge, and you will witness how the challenge begins to dissolve. That is it. Zero in on your gift, and I would also say zero in on the things that bring you joy. We typically do the opposite. We disinvest in both of those things. And then we think that it's about focusing on just getting the job done. Let me make sure I get this check. And it's like, yeah, but you're disinvesting in your gift, and you're disinvesting in the things that bring you joy. So if you are already you're already ill managing your investment, your natural investment. Like you've already been born with abundance that is beyond what any check could ever afford you. You were born with that. But the fact that you intentionally are disinvesting in yourself, that is where the problem is.
I've noticed, and I can say I've noticed that a lot of time, well, I was born with a mindset saying that, I may not be rich, but I always felt wealthy.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because I love and I understand exactly what you're saying in that, because I hear what you're saying. It's like, yeah, the true investment is me. The true is within me. But at times I haven't felt like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? We go through these storms in life, and it's something to try to balance. It's something to try to balance, because even, those materialistic things, the money, everything like that, it'll take you over. It's
true.
hard.
Let me ask you something then. So
I think Ren's about to get caught.
Yo, let's go. Let's go.
We about to go in.
The energy is already,
what I'm saying?
We
about to go in, yeah. So let me ask you, do you feel like you're a business-minded person?
Right now. You mean right now?
Just generally speaking. Like if you're a business-minded person.
Yes,
okay.
I can be, yes.
So you can be. So share with me what is your gift? What's the things that you offer in the world? I don't know if you have a business. I don't know too much about you. So share with me, like, just sort of how you move.
If I could say what I could truly offer, for whatever reason, I feel like I've been blessed to communicate with a lot of our youth in a certain manner that they understand what I'm saying. They're able to be moved by what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And that's what I love to do. That's my passion.
Got it.
That would be what I would consider my gift.
Your gift, excellent. And when you Remedy, did I say it right?
Yes, ma'am.
When Remedy wants to get something done, like take us back to a moment, or just in your mind, go back to a moment where you're like, yo, I had this idea, I had this vision, and I went in. Can you recall a moment like that? Something really just had you lit up, and you was like, it doesn't matter how long you were in that space, the fact that you had that moment.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, so zero in on that moment for a second.
Okay.
How did you move?
Precisely. Precisely and swiftly. It wasn't really no. It seemed like it was, thinking about that, because you said zero in. It seemed like there wasn't really no effort. It was just done.
And how did you know that you were becoming successful at it? That it was moving in the direction that you wanted it to move in?
Because to me, because it fit together as if like a puzzle. But it was no problem putting that puzzle together. It was just like really think, because you're making me think about it. Seriously, it was like almost like no effort. Yeah. It was just like, this is just everything I was doing. It seemed like almost I was operating without even consciously having to put that effort into it.
Yeah.
It was just like done.
Yeah. And now what are you remembering? Taking you back to that moment, and then coupled with whatever challenges or things that you might be dealing with now. How can you apply the space you just took us to that?
That's deep.
She coaching you, bro. She's an action coach.
Yo, that's
because here's the thing.
That's deep.
Because the thing is, right, like the part of like that it's hard, right, or like that it's a balance trying to figure out or to remember, in those difficult moments in our lives, remembering. I was talking to Jay earlier about, I think that there's an orchestrated effort to have us lose our memory. There's an orchestrated effort to have us forget about the parts of our lives where we did feel flow, where we were in our zone, where we were connecting puzzles like this. It wasn't even a puzzle. It was just like easy, right? Like there's an attempt to have us forget those things. And so for me, part of my work is helping you remember so that you can take those pieces, the top 3 learnings from that, the top 3 lessons, the process learnings, the experience lessons, and then be able to say, now how can I apply that to this area right now, right? But the only way that you can tap into that is memory recall. The only way you can tap into that is being able to take time out of your day and say, you know what, yeah, I'm feeling in this moment that my life feels like it can't get any better. This is the bottom of it, da 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 da. But then you have to say, and sometimes you need a visual representation. So post something in your house if you need to. That's like, this is where the vision boards. But here's the thing. I'm also very clear that we sometimes, now I love vision boards, y'all. We sometimes make our vision boards too noisy. Like sometimes you actually just need one clear message. And it might be that clear message for that week. You know, or maybe you make a big vision board, but then you put that away, you let it go, and then you just pull out like the main words that you need to focus on and zero in on for this week or for this day, right? But we got to break it down because that's also adding to more of the distraction and the confusion.
I want to go to that.
Confusion.
I want to go to that, to break it down, right? And this is where I agree. You know, there's these big vision boards that we make, which are great.
They're amazing.
I'm all about visualization. I mean, I can remember times where I was living in the worst places, spaces, and I needed to get out of there. So it was important for me to put quotes up everywhere and look at those because my only choice was to dream and to imagine getting out of this place. So visualization is everything to me. But over time, breaking that down, it came down to a lot of small little habits and things that I needed to change. How do we know the difference between something that is here for us to just lean into and learn from, but also between something that where it comes down to habits, it comes down to things that you're doing that you've been so accustomed to for so many years that you need to change. You know, what is required for us to really break it down and see
what it really is.
What it really is.
So I want to say maybe a year ago, I was like, you know what? I'm about to enroll in a PhD of me. And I was like, I'm going to videotape myself reflecting. I'm going to record myself. And I'm going to work on creating a PowerPoint presentation because I'll be making PowerPoint presentations for everybody else and for business and work and all that stuff. And I was like, well, what if I took on myself that way? You know what I mean? Like, that I studied myself. And so I think any way it looks for you is how it looks, but you got to be willing to study yourself. And so for me, a simple way to do that beyond, you know, because I be ODing sometimes and, you know, but that's fine. Go, you know, you are who you are. And, you know, like one of the ways that you can do it is at the end of every day, you can say, or at the end of, so I'm going to tell you what I do. And then you take whatever resonates with you. So for me, every moment for me is an experience for me to learn and grow. This right now, this time with you all is a moment of growth. It's an experience. I call everything an experience. It's prayer. It's a prayer experience right now. So when I leave this space, I'm going to reflect on my drive home. And I reflect on 3 core questions. The first one is about the experience. The first section is about the experience. What did I learn? What are my top 3 learnings? So what are all the things that I learned just being in the experience, you know? And it might be something like, oh, I learned like it's really important that I make sure I pray before I come on to a radio show. It's really important that I listen to music that lifts me up before I come in. It's really important that I don't listen to anything that's gonna negatively trigger me before I engage in prayer and communion with other people, right? Like you're gonna be jotting down like all of those things that you got from the experience because that is your learning moment. That is your classroom. And if you don't take a moment, and I say immediately after if you can, if not by the end of the day, you know, but like immediately after if you have that space, because then it's not logged in you. Because that's what's happening. It's like we have all of these experiences and we haven't downloaded them. We haven't synthesized them. But if you think about how the educational system works and the chapters of books, they always have at the end of that chapter questions that you got to reflect on. That's an experience. That chapter was an experience. Our conversation is no different. You going on a date is no different. You going to work is no different. You having a moment of making food is no different. That's still an experience. You know, and so if you could take on that every moment of your life is an experience that was divinely created for you by God and ancestors and God and guides. None of it was a coincidence. So if you take on none of it was a coincidence, there's a gift for you to find there. But the only way you're going to be able to have access to it is if you slow down and say, I am going to deliberately reflect on that experience right now. And then you'll develop your systems.
Let's go into the slow down.
I hope everybody's listening.
Oh,
I hope we got ears out there.
You got the direct line again now.
You know, it's going down right now.
I'm over here doing praise break.
So
Yes, indeed.
I wanna because we always run out of time, so I want to make sure we hit everything.
Oh, I know.
You know,
I'm sorry.
habits was very important. I'm glad you broke that down. Studying ourselves, which is something I do. As a matter of fact, but I did not do the vision board right away for my New Year's. I actually did that. I studied myself, and I took about 4 or 5 hours to not just reorganizing my space, but knowing, okay, where are the new things gonna go, where are they not gonna go, this is gonna stay this way, this is gonna stay that way. All of it is important, but then also, to me, I know I need to journal, but how am I gonna journal? Why don't I journal? I never journaled before because I went to sleep like this, woke up like that. I mean, literally finding strategies that are gonna make me operate better, right? One of the things that I noticed, though, as I've been on this journey of optimizing my life, was that I feel there's a conspiracy to take our sleep. You know, a lot of times we look at these movements and we say, you know, Black Lives Matter, LGBTQ, Me Too, all great causes, all great movements. But we rarely have a movement that focuses on us before we even show up to that work, right? And I feel like there's a conspiracy to take our sleep, to take our memory, like you were talking about, and just have us running fast. Talk about the things that we might not even notice that are happening to us.
Ooh, child.
You know, on such a deep level, micro level, and we just run, and we don't think about those things.
The part that frustrates me the most, like, I felt like I gave so much room for people to do us well, right? And to honor our soul and our best interests. And forgetting, you know, like that's not what this country was built on. Like, you actually have to deal with that truth. And that's not why we were brought here, taken here, enslaved here. You know what I mean? Like, and so when I really started to deal with that of like, yo, but the intention was faulty from the beginning. And intention is very important to me. So understanding what the real intention of anything is gives you insight and access to a thing. So television, and someone brought this to my attention the other day. Television. This is someone else telling you your vision. Someone else is telling you what your vision needs to be. And so every time you aimlessly just like, oh, I'm just going to watch this to numb myself, it's like, great, because they are now influencing your vision.
And make no mistake, because a lot of people say, well, I don't watch TV. If you're on your phone,
it's the same thing. It's vision. Yeah. If someone else is consistently in your ear about their vision and you're engaging in it, as though it's, even if you're engaging in it from the place of like, this is crazy, and it's like, you're still engaging in it. You know what I mean? And it's like, so television is something, I do not watch things that are negative, that have a negative vibration, a low vibration for me. I'm checking for everything. I mean, like songs, if there's a word in a song that doesn't resonate with my truth, I stop listening to it. You know what I mean? If there's a word, that's not the one that's going to be on my constant replay. I might hear it out in the world, but like in terms of what's on my computer and all that stuff, no. And so I think television, I think conversations, you got to be willing to cut people off when they start talking in a low vibration. What is going to be your response? Is your response, and it has to be loving, is your response going to be talking to yourself and saying, I hear you and that's not my truth? You got to combat it though. Right. Like, even if you're not saying anything out loud, but you're saying it to yourself, you still got to protect yourself. At all costs, you got to protect yourself. And it's coming in so many different ways. So many ways. It's like you like because Matrix and out here.
Back when I was in my early 20s, teens, you know, 5-hour energy drinks, Red Bull, coffee, everybody running on Dunkin', you know what I mean? That stuff wasn't so necessary. Yeah. Now, caffeine is a vital source to keep going.
Now, isn't that concerning though?
Yeah.
is on freaking Duncan, really,
Right.
and you're gonna ascribe to that statement. You're gonna ascribe to that statement. I run on Duncan.
Along with hip hop bringing the message. Along with hip hop bringing the message of what is it? Sleep when you die. Get rich or die trying.
Like,
it's like constantly moving.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't take that time.
Well, listen, here's the thing. You can have it.
Okay. Because now I feel bad. Like, oh, wait a minute.
But listen, here's the thing. And sometimes I think it's
about something. That means something about what someone else said resonated as true. That's what that means. And sometimes we give ourselves a pass when we say, well, I feel bad about it. So that the other person that might have said something might then retract or be like, well, girl, I didn't really mean it that way. I meant it in whatever way I meant it. But the reality is, something about us talking about this right now is resonating with you. And so now, after this moment, after our experience together, go reflect on that for a moment. Be like, what was it really that resonated with me about that comment? And you may actually find that it had nothing to do with what you think it has something to do with.
No, I think I know exactly. I think it's just me always just slow, like tired and not full of energy to get certain things done or do certain things.
I understand.
You know what I'm saying?
I do understand.
Yeah, so I think when you said that, I was like, darn it.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like I need something that's gonna,
But it sounds like to me is that now in reflecting on that, because I think about myself as well, and then talking about operating in the subconscious, that these things have been zapping us of our energy, of our our time.
Supposed to give
like
us energy.
Yeah, it's
Right.
zapping you.
Right,
Yeah, that's what it's doing.
It's taken.
Right.
But the outside things.
The perception, baby.
That's making us go to the coffee, or that was making me go to the cigarettes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Those
Yeah.
outside is just like is what is the real effect, man.
Yes.
That's
And
killing us.
The last thing that we normally look at is, and this is now, bringing it even more to ourselves.
Yeah.
Because before we show up to these movements, before we show up to our job, to our family, we have us.
Yes.
We don't take that a lot. We don't take a lot of time to just us.
Yeah.
Even down to silence and facing our thoughts, from young people to older people.
Yeah.
That's a very uncomfortable feeling. Can we talk a little bit about why that is so important, number one, to be alone with your thoughts? And I know we did discuss going over, learning from reflection and stuff like that. But even down to energy, how much energy it gives us and what it does for us before we, for our own interactions in life, the importance of really just being with our thoughts.
You are the only one that has access to your thoughts, like you. There's no one else that has full access but you. And I know that it can be scary, because when I started my self-love journey, I was like, I don't want to be by my thoughts, because it's some scary conversations.
It's like it's racket.
It's so much, and you don't know. You're like, but if that comes up, then this is like you already start to get anxious inside of it, and so I get it. You know what I mean? Like I get it, and you have to be. Before you go into that moment, I think it's important to set yourself up. And so how you set yourself up is what you do behind the scenes first, right? So whatever you're doing behind the scenes, so that in the moment when you are triggered, you know how to respond. Right. But if you're not proactively doing it already, then in the moment when you're triggered, you don't remember, you don't have anything to pull from because you haven't been practicing in the moments when you have felt great. Right, which is why it's important to have a consistent practice. Right. So that's one. It's like have a consistent practice, even if it's like I'm going to commit 15 minutes every morning. Great, have a consistent practice. Right. I encourage the morning before you start engaging with everybody else and everybody else's needs and etc. So in that, what I do sometimes is when I feel myself getting ready, like I'm about to deal with something deep here, because you feel it. You feel when it's about to come. You're like, oh. I don't know if I'm ready for that right now. But instead of saying, I don't know if I'm ready for that right now, what you say is, before I go into this, and I do mirror work, so I look at myself in the mirror, because I also want myself to comfort myself. Mm-hmm. And I look at myself in the mirror and I say, before I go into this, I just want you to know that the only reason why I'm going here is because I know it's access to my freedom. That's the only reason. I'm not going to dwell here, but I'm going here because I know it's going to support me with being free. And I trust you, and I trust the process. So we can begin. And so you give yourself language that pads you and supports you so that you can go there. Because again, it's not about dwelling in the pain, which is what a lot of us do, but it is about dealing with it and allowing the pain to pass. You have to allow the pain to pass. We can't resist the pain. Pain is part of our human experience, right? But there's growth on the other side of it. You have to be willing to look at it gently and with love and kindness. And then you go through it. And then when you're done, you get the tears out. You are like, oh my God, I didn't even see that. Oh my God, that's what it was. Oh my God, thank you. Right? Like it just gives you a different access. But you don't know it until you you pad it with language that makes you feel safe. And then you go there and then you see what happens.
So, and that kind of would, that'll be the difference between, for us to know that we're not dwelling in it.
That's
when we
right.
go into it knowing that, okay, this is for growth.
That's right.
I'm going to cry. It's going to hurt.
Yeah.
But this is for growth.
This is for growth.
But if we don't go in thinking this is for growth, it's like, okay, this is what I'm dealing with.
Yeah.
And that's a different
It's gonna
mindset.
take me back to that place again. I'm gonna feel like I'm 14 again. Like we start to do all of those things.
Yeah.
But that's because you didn't set up the intention.
Right. It all stems from intention.
All stems from intention.
So one of the things that we went over listening, we went over studying ourselves and going over the habits and creating new habits,
Yeah.
right? But we were talking about before we went live on the radio, the difference between leadership, perceived leadership,
Ooh.
and real leadership. Because
Okay, I'm sorry.
because some of
I
the,
wasn't ready for that one.
in a lot of different organizations, in a lot of different movements, and again, for people who say, well, Moving Target, y'all usually talk about issues that are affecting us socially, and this is one of the biggest issues affecting us socially.
Oh, yeah.
The lack
Yes.
of focus on ourselves.
Yes.
And sometimes
Yes.
we allow the work we're doing to compensate,
Yeah.
for things that we're missing in ourselves.
Yeah.
And that shows up in some kind of way.
Absolutely.
So let's talk a little bit about perceived leadership and real leadership.
Yeah, so I believe that perceived leadership looks good. And it looks good, however, it still brings you more questions. So you could look at somebody, and if you look at somebody and they look like they got it going on, okay? It's like, like they got this business venture, they got this relationship, they got this amount of money coming in, like all appearances, it looks good. And then you start talking to them, and there's something vibrationally that you're just like, And it's very subtle, right? Like it's not like, it can be very subtle. In some instances, it can be very apparent, but it can be very subtle.
Over, you either have it be so subtle that you disregard it and then you just trust that, oh, it's all good, they're perfect, or you actually address it.
Right.
But the subtleness of it means that that person is not being 100% authentic about their journey right now. Like that there's still some work that they're not doing with regards to leading themselves. And that's a sign, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's just know that might be the perception, baby. Like that's not 100% truth right now.
Right.
So don't trust everything. Don't try to think that this person's life is better than yours, because you just got a cue that there's still something that they're working through, and that's okay. We're all working through something.
Yeah.
So there's the perceived good as well, where, whether it's organizations, individuals, where it's like, this is what we're committed to, this is our mission, this is our intention, this is what we do, but then the people inside of it are not doing it.
Right.
You can't have a mission if you're a business owner, if you're an organization. You can't have a mission and you as the leadership, or you as the founder, or you as the whatever, if you ain't living and embodying it. Because if you're not living and embodying it, everyone that's associated with it is going to not get it. Like you're actually creating something that, like, it's almost like if I say the mission for Let's Pursue You, or my work is really to set you free, right? If I say that's part of my work, and then I invite thousands of people in, millions of people in, and then like I don't do any work on myself to get free, but I'm saying that I am, but I'm modeling something different because you're so connected to me, and it was that subtleness. You're going to start practicing what I modeled.
Even without you knowing it.
Even without me knowing it, even without you knowing it, because that subtleness you done already let go of. You've accepted me wholly now. Even though there was a little subtleness there where you're like, yeah, but I don't always see her taking care of herself. But, it's queer. Like, we do that.
Right.
But then you start practicing the things that I model,
Right.
which means I'm actually not committed to your freedom. I'm not.
This is heavy.
I'm not.
Right.
And you got to deal with that.
And I think what ends up also happening, which is a problem, for leaders and for just for people as a whole, is that our external achievements end up becoming what approve us as leaders.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, I got another. If I
Accolade.
wasn't the leader, why did I get this degree, or why did I get this achievement?
Oh,
and it's
baby.
like, get this degree, or why did I get this achievement? And
Oh,
it's
baby.
like, but that didn't make you a true leader.
Yeah.
So I always say, like, to lead is to serve,
Yeah.
right?
That's great.
And serving yourself,
Yes.
right? How do we, when it comes to these New Year's resolutions, let's bring it back to that, and all these things that we're trying to do to the new year, new us, we always somewhere drop the ball. It is so good. I was telling a friend of mine, they were like, man, you're starting off real good, because I always reinvent myself. That's just, I always try to find a new way to reinvent myself. And I'm like, nah, I'm not celebrating right now. Check me in 3 months. See how I'm doing then. Because right now it's exciting.
Yeah.
Emotions are running, and I'm like, yeah, we gonna do this, And then somewhere it drops, and it starts to go down little by little. What do you think that is? And I know I'm not alone. I know everybody
you're
could
not
agree
alone.
with that.
You're not alone.
Where do we end up getting comfortable and dropping the ball and going back into our own place?
Yeah.
And what do we have to do to stay on point and make sure we don't keep dropping that?
Attached to the plan, which is why the intention is important. When you have the overall intention of, like, I want to, whatever the overall intention is that kind of sums up what you're committed to. You plan it out sort of like the visioning. You plan it out. Yes, you can get out as detailed as you want to. Get your best out, right? Like, get it out on paper. And then be like, I trust you and I trust the process. And just listen. Just listen, because the next step comes in conversation and experiences. And sometimes if we're too attached to the plan, we think that we're not making it, but God done sent us all of the people, the resources, all of that within that 3-month period of the first quarter. But because you were so committed to it has to be this way and it needs to look like this, and like, you miss the entire point.
Right.
And so that's what's happening, is that people are being too fixated on the goal and getting this done, and it needs to be this amount of conversations, and and it's
So
like you got to go with the flow.
If I missed Monday, I was supposed to go to the gym Monday.
Yeah, it's like, oh!
Tuesday. It's like, see, I'm messing up.
Yeah.
And then eventually the talk becomes, I'm messing up. And then eventually the talk becomes,
Self-sabotage.
right.
But here's the thing I want y'all to get. We have to.
I need to go to the gym on Monday. But when we got up, Spirit said, no, you need to sit and pray. So sit and pray.
Right.
Because Spirit is saying, it's not the gym today, sugar. It's not. But we make ourselves wrong. Like, we start to get into, oh, I should have went and I didn't. And then we don't even pray. And then it's like, oh, my day, just, and it's like, I wake up and I say, Flo, how do you want to use me? Because I want to be in the natural flow of, in the natural rhythm of what is my natural rhythm. Not like what my ego said my natural rhythm needs to be Monday through Friday. No.
Now that doesn't mean just wake up and
Yeah.
that doesn't mean just wake up and have nothing.
No,
planned.
it means sit
Right.
and be like, you know what is it? And this is like it could be 30 minutes, right? Where you just wake up
in this moment, because practicing flow is important. So to practice it is to set aside a few minutes in the morning, 30 minutes, where you're just listening for, what do you want me to do? And if Spirit says, go to your closet, go to your closet. If Spirit says, fold that, fold that. If you're being called to go smell that, smell that. It's like, just listen to what you're being called to do, so that when you then go out for the day and you are inside of your schedule, you're going to be listening newly.
Right.
Let me ask you, so how do we, okay, let me just say it like this. We were created as beings, as now human beings.
Yeah.
We were created, and would you say this is true for every human being, to move in a positive manner? Because when I hear you say listen to flow, I can see some people saying they've been orchestrated to, like, literally do nothing. See, how do we keep them
it's
other?
A lie,
It's a lie, right? Automatically, if your flow is telling you to do anything that's negative or destructive or
your flow.
anything like that, that's not your flow. It's
No.
something else.
Something
It's
else.
something else, coming in.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that
You're
is
just not
difficult,
listening.
one of the things that is
Just not
difficult,
listening.
one of the things that's difficult for a lot of people when they think like that is really being honest with themselves and going deeper.
That's right.
Mm.
Underneath that.
Right.
Mhm.
And this started having me stop blaming other people, even when they hurt me. It's like, even if they hurt me, but still, where am I? What do I own in that? And going deeper and deeper. I don't think a lot of people do that with
right.
themselves and with their own decisions.
Right. Right.
If they were gonna be honest, they would know.
Yeah, that ain't what
Yeah, you know what I
Right.
mean? And we use that as an excuse because it's also ego driven. You know,
Mhm.
it's like, because we are so, a lot of us are so, and we're in a country that thrives off of greed and that thrives off of the individual person winning and all this stuff. And so people are walking around narcissistic as all get out, you know, like very much like, this is the way it's supposed to be, very righteous, very ... and they leave no room for spirit to enter. And so there are folks that are blocking it. But we all have access to it, and all people have to do is make a choice and say, you know what, I surrender. I don't know it all, and I don't want to continue to operate as though I know it all, because I don't run this. And that's the thing for me. It's like, nobody else runs this, and no one runs your energy unless you give it to them, right? And so it's like, you can turn any circumstance around, energy. And how you tap into your energy is slowing down, checking in with your own rhythm. It's your own rhythm that you got to connect to. My rhythm is different from yours. So my job is to tap into understanding my own rhythm, you know? And so, but anyone that operates as though like my flow is telling me what, I just, you know, this is my response.
Right.
I just shake my head and
So-
I'm like, all right.
So
You got it.
usually I
Disengage.
always do this last minute, and I don't give the person enough time. But I know so many people are tuning in and just loving what you're saying, which I expected. So why don't you give them your contacts and where to reach you, so they.
You can go to www.letspursueyou.com. If you're really interested, because I like to work with people that are ready, you know, like you're ready to have a conversation, you can email me at akuaflows@gmail.com. That's AKUAF as in Frank, LOWS @gmail.com. And we can connect that way. You know, energy is real. If there's anything that we said today, if there's anything that I said today that resonated with you, that means it's time for you to connect. That's what that means. And so I invite you to lean into that connection and to trust that feeling. And we can connect and see where it takes us, you know, but I think it really is time. The time is of the essence. Space is of the essence right now. We have everything that we need, every single thing that we need. And I'm here for you to reclaim your freedom forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, and to be able to hold that space for your generation and generations to come. It is not just about this moment for me.
I need
at
that.
all.
I'm gonna do it.
At
She's
all.
gonna have me crying. She about to break me down. And I'm, everybody know, I pride myself. I'm the man. I'm alpha. I ain't got the. She gonna have me crying.
I want to thank everybody
Lord.
for tuning in. Thank everybody for tuning in. Thank everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Akua, for coming through. And make sure you stick around for Yusef on the electric drum, 94.3 WYBC, the rhythm of the city. Yo. Yeah, you can stop the line.